Om Sang Saraswati Namaha. Namaste, Namaste. Let's discuss some of the questions that arose about the four ashramas. Now remember, these are 4 stages of life where they're broad classifications and broad categories in which we distinguish between our student life, where we're learning to become empowered citizens, our grahastha life, where we're striving to make our contribution, our vanaprastha life, where we are in the first stages of retirement, and our sannyas life, where we have entered into total renunciation. We have only one function to perform as sannyas: to live the truth. To live in truth, to have the truth established within, and to share that love, to share that bhav, to share that energy wherever we go. Tom asks, what is your definition of a spiritual person? Namaste, Tom. Tom, a spiritual person is one who gives more than they take. Here's a question from Ravi. Namaste, Swamiji and Mom. Some parents give a tremendous amount of resources to their children while compromising their own retirement plans, leading to an expectation that the children will take care of them later. Is this expectation justified? Certainly. Certainly, if you're giving with an expectation, and the expectations are clear and in the transaction, then certainly it's a justifiable transaction. I can very easily say to my children, I will support your education now, providing you support my retirement later. Isn't that not justified? However, if you give without definition, then there is a limitation to the amount of justification that one can seek. So if we've made a contract and we have an agreement and we all know what are the rights and obligations of the parties, then certainly that's a fair trade. I will give you my retirement for your edification, and you will take care of me in my retirement. It won't be a fair deal if I say I'm giving you all of my money and you go out and have a good time and then let me live on the government exchequer. I can live off Social Security or be a ward of the state. That's not a fair deal. But now we have to define and decide what are those expectations. What is a logical and a reasonable expectation? For example, if my family were to ask, provide us transportation, I would say that's a reasonable expectation. Excuse me. However, if they said that we can't travel in a Ford or Chevrolet, we require a Mercedes or a BMW, I would say, wait, let's look at what my capacity is, and then we will adjust your expectation accordingly. Don't you put me in difficulties in order for your edification. So, yes, the expectations are justified, but we have to have some limits. We have to have some criteria by which we can define what the limits are. It's not unlimited expectation. You get to have anything you want, even at the sacrifice of my capacity. So we want to make it equitable for everyone. Certainly a family is a social, economic unit, and we're going to work together to provide the greatest amount of security that we possibly can. However, if one partner to the agreement, one party to the contract says, I have unreasonable expectations, I want too much for myself, I want you to give up your job and take care of me exclusively, and with no income, you should support your family, you should educate your children, but I want you to do my seva personally, I want you to, it's an unreasonable expectation. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to those expectations. And we have to make them lovingly, willingly, joyously, and logically, so that we don't put any of the members of our family in difficulties. The objective is for the whole family to grow and prosper. Don't tell me I can't support my children in their empowerment in order to take care of my parents in the standard that they have grown accustomed or that they are expecting to live in. So we have to make some trade-offs, make it fair. So if giving more than taking results in expectations, should parents try to balance their give and take? They should try to balance the give and take, but give a little more. In other words, you and I negotiate a very fair deal. And you're a winner and I'm a winner. And now in my love for you, I want you to take a little bit more. Just a little gratuity, a little dakshina, which means dakshina is not an honorarium which is agreed upon in advance. Dakshina is not a priestly fee. Dakshina is the offering of my love and respect, and I want to make sure you know that I want you to have this. This seals the bargain. So when I give dakshina to the priest, I don't want to just say, okay, here's your pansika, here's your 5 coins, here's your rupee and a quarter, here is the agreed upon fee that we agreed upon for the performance of this ceremony. I want to say, here's a little extra on top of that because I respect what you're doing and I really respect your knowledge, and I want it to, my love and my faith in God is going to make it even more powerful what you have given to me. So yes, the expectations are justified when defined in advance, and then give a little more, not so that you get hurt, but give a little more as you can give, as is appropriate for your circumstances. And then make a budget, live according to budget. Don't just spend whatever comes in. Live according to budget and save that money and save what you can and prepare yourselves for those days that we may be in need. I think one of those days was today. It just seems the global markets are saying to us the economy is not growing as it should be. There were 30,000 applicants for 400 apartments in Georgia today, and there will come a time when we have that need. And then the family can join together and they can bind together and they can work together to solve each other's dilemmas. But with appropriate expectations, not with outlandish expectations. I will not think that it's appropriate for my friend or my family to make another payment on my Ferrari because I've gotten into hard times. I wouldn't have that expectation. Or I don't need 67 Rolls Royces in my garage. That's an outlandish expectation. But let's think what's appropriate for the time, place, and circumstances, and then empower each other to work together so that the whole family comes together, the whole community comes together, the congregation comes together in mutual support. Here's a question from Vish. How can astrology help us guide our children and guide ourselves? Vish, namaste. Astrology can give us a very general picture of the basic propensity of each individual in the family. And what are your strong points and what are your weak points and where can we... And it's an impetus to the dialogue to say, how do we want to work together as a family? What are your aspirations and what are your aspirations? How can we all work together in mutual support? So astrology will open up that conversation. It'll say, what are your basic tendencies? What are your basic directions? What are the ideals that you wish to pursue? And now each individual in the family can give expression to his or her own ideals. And we can make a plan that works for everybody, an inclusive plan. So astrology will give us impetus to the conversation. That's its most important value. It is inspire the conversation so that we can have the dialogue all together. Where do you want to go? And why do you want to get there? It says here that you could go in this direction or that direction. Which direction do you want to go? It says in the stars and in the charts that you could go this way and if you could go that way. Which direction do you feel most compelling? What's the story that you want to write in your life's history? And when you get that ideal, you get that clarity, you get that definition, you get the organization, you can find the path, and you figure out what you got to do to get there. And that's the same thing we are doing with every project that we do. We figure out what the outcome is supposed to look like. We define the terms. We define the processes. We empower each other to go ahead and start off on the journey. We figure out the resources that will be necessary along the way. And then we proceed step by step. Each one of us who has accomplished the culmination of any project, whether it be our education process, whether it be a work project, whether it be a social project, whether it be whatever we do, we all start out in the same way. We conceive what is the destination, we define where we are at the origin, and we figure out where the path lies between the origin and the terminus. Now, astrology will help us in that definition. Our culture talks so much about having fun in your job and following your bliss in your career path. Well, good. Yet work can be difficult. Oh boy, do we know. Schooling can be difficult. How to make sense of these two very different experiences? Well, we have fun when we feel that we're growing. We enjoy when we're adding and enhancing our capacity, when we're empowered, when we get to take control and make our own decisions. We feel it's delightful. And so to the extent that we are empowering ourselves, every time we meet a hard spot in the work ethic or difficulties in the schooling, we can say to ourselves, self, listen to me. This is an opportunity for us to empower ourselves to meet the challenges that we face in our life. And when we complete this process, we're going to be greater empowered, we're going to have greater authority so that we will be more successful in the efficiencies of manipulating our lives. And that's the administration that we wish to achieve. So if we are looking for that outcome, and that is absolutely our goal, then now this is an opportunity for us to learn. These difficulties, these obstacles are really, they make the rest of the journey so much more worthwhile. They give rise to such a greater worthiness that I surmounted those obstacles in order to get to where I am today. I have already spoken of the story of how I was trying to do my first Sahasra Chandi, and I needed a temple, and I needed money, I needed a supply chain, I needed a visa permit to stay there, and it was difficult for me to organize. But when I finally got it together, what a sense of accomplishment, what a sense of achievement, what a sense of fulfillment. I could dedicate myself with even greater vigor, with a greater focus to the sankalpa that I was undertaking. How do we as parents accept that our children may turn away from the teachings at some point? That they do not want to live the type of life and practice the type of lifestyle that we desire for them. You know, the children are on loan to us. We are chokidar. We're the caretaker. We're not the owner. They have their own karma to fulfill. Now, I am empowering and trying to empower my children to follow the teachings which brought success to me. If you're not interested, namaste. I bow to you, I bless you, and I want to keep communication with you. You go find your own way. You go find what works for you. You find your own bliss. You find your own delight, and come back and report to me how you did. And if you get into trouble, please call me. Call me first. And let me see if I can find the resources to bail you out of difficulty. Now, don't call me every 6 weeks and tell me that you want me to bail you out again and again and again. I will teach you how to fish, but I won't give you my fish regularly. You come to my house, I'll share my fish with you, but if you're going off on your own, I'm going to buy you a fishing rod and some line and tackle and let you fish for yourself. If you can't do it, either you're going to do it your way and be successful, or you're going to come back and do it my way. But don't think that you can come into my ashram and tell me how I'm supposed to live my life according to your standards. I'm more than happy to reach out and to welcome and empower and share and nourish to the extent of my capacity. But children, when you grow up and you choose your own way of life, that was your choice. And if you want to choose a different way of life, tell me and we'll see how we can work together. But some children keep coming back and saying, hey, Swamiji, now I'm going to try this business. Could you finance it? And now I'm going to try that business. Could you finance it? Now I'm going to try that business. Could you finance it? And there comes a point where it is no longer appropriate for us to engage. That's not our duty as parents. Our duty is to say, hey, kids, if you want an education, we are giving you education. If you want empowerment on the first step, we're giving you empowerment on the first step. But at some point, you're going to have to take responsibility for yourselves. So how do you accept that the children may turn away from the teachings? You accept it. Yes, kids, you've got your own karma, you've got your own sanskara. You came here for your purpose, not for mine. And I accept that. And I respect that. if they do not want to live the type of life and practice the type of lifestyle that we desire for them, namaste, have a beautiful life. Let me know how you're doing. Send me a postcard. Give me a call. We'll be very appreciative. Here's a question from Ambika. Namaste, Ambika. Namaste, Sham. Is one way of understanding brahmacharya living a life of moderation? It doesn't only refer to celibacy. No, brahmacharya does not only refer to celibacy by any extent of the imagination. Brahmacharya means walking with God, moving towards God. Celibacy may or may not be one aspect of brahmacharya. But learning is the root. Empowering yourself to serve God, to serve Guru, to serve your community, to serve your families, to serve the congregation is another aspect. Moderation certainly plays into that. The middle way, the balance. It's not about just abstinence. That's not our slogan, and it's not our aspiration. Is abstinence. Our aspiration is intelligence, discrimination, what we call vivek. We call discrimination the vivek to understand, the capacity to understand what are the probable outcomes of these, the consequences of these actions. Once we have that understanding, we accept responsibility. And that's the core of brahmacharya. Do I want to walk with God? Do I want to become empowered? Do I want to live with the example of the Guru? Is that the inspiration of my life? Then let me go for it. A question from Rami. Hi Rami, Mami, Namaste. Namaste Shree Baba. In the Puranas, there are stories of grihasthas who go to the Himalayas or go to the forest in the last stage of their lives. How should we plan for the last two stages of our lives? All the elders we see have so many health problems, it is hard for them to be comfortable even at home. Rami, Mommy, do you know, thank God we are blessed with strength and youth and fortitude and vigor, and let's plan for every eventuality. So that if I need a final health care directive or funeral instructions to be part of my estate instructions, that's planning in advance. If I have pre-planning funeral rites in my estate instructions, that's planning in advance. But moreover, I want to plan for how can I go to the Himalayas, or how do I go to make a kutir in the backyard, or how do I make a little temple where I can submerge myself in divinity without disturbance and distraction. That would be the greater plan. And if for some reason I'm blessed with health or strength or capacity, then I can go there to my little spot, to my little place, to my refuge, to my ashram. And there I will take I'll take refuge at the feet of God. The more I can enhance my sadhana, the more I can expand my spiritual discipline, the more I can submerge myself in study of godliness and practice of tapasya and all the aspects of siddhanta chara, puja, pat, homa, singing, dancing, discussing what it means and how it applies and serving others, then I move into sannyas, and that is the ultimate plan. So that would be the greatest plan. Now figure out what you need in order to do that. How could you survive in your environment? With what would it take? What are the economic necessities? What are the social amenities? What are the physical requirements to maintain my body? And then, as an insurance policy, if I become disabled, then I've got something to fall back on so that I am not a burden to the next generation. I don't want to be a burden to the next generation. So if there's some provision for the worst case scenario, and then in advance of that, let me go out and cultivate the relationships. You see, if you're a giver, everyone loves you. Everyone wants to be with you. They all invite you. Please come here. If you're a giver, everyone wants to be with you, Rami. So cultivate those relationships. You are a giver, so then go out and give. And see how God prepares your path for you as you are a giver. We have many, many goals and plans to reach them, but many times they have not manifested as we desired. What is the purpose of making goals and plans versus just going with the flow? Well, if you don't have a plan, you're going to fit into somebody else's plan. That's what it means to go with the flow. When the river is flowing quickly and you enter into the stream, you just go with the flow. And you don't have any control. You go where the river goes. And it may not be where you want to go. It may not be that that's your ultimate objective. But if you have a plan, at least you have a direction. At least you can strive to empower yourself to reach out the way you want life to be. You can accept life on your terms. At least you've tried. But if you just go with the flow, you don't even try, you just give up. Okay, you do it for me, God. I have nothing to do. I know I'm going to get the fruit of my karma. Why should I do anything? I'll just sit here. That is not the Sanatana Dharma. That is not the eternal ideal of perfection. I give up. You take over. I'm putting my burden on you. So definitely, it's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. Can you please talk about the rites that are done at the time of taking sannyas and their significance? Yes. The first thing we do, and we're going to talk about this more in our rites of passage, but the first thing we do is perform our own funeral. And the significance is that I am no longer bound by this transient world of objects and relationships. I am no longer the responsible party. So before we can do that, we are required to go to every member of our family and friends and inner circle, all our sphere of influence, and say, is there anything more that you need from me? Is there anything more that I'm required to give to you? Is my account clear? Do I have freedom to leave? And when we achieve the blessings of everyone in our sphere of influence, thereafter we are allowed to perform our own funeral. Now that means that I am no more that individual that I left behind. And certainly we've studied the funeral rites, so we know how to do the funeral. So learning these funeral rites will be a condition precedent to making the transition into sannyas. Thereafter, after we perform the funeral, we take on the ochre-colored cloth. That means we take the vows of sannyas. But more important than the vows of sannyas is the fact of sannyas. It's never too late to take the vow of sannyas. The difficulty arises when we take it too early. Because until sannyas is not the fact of our lives, it can't just be a vow that we're trying to measure up to. And the vow is a vow of abstinence, it's a vow of sacred study, it's a vow of sankalpa, it's a vow of spirituality, it's a vow of wearing the cloth of renunciation and carrying yourself as an ascetic and acting as a renunciate in every activity of your life. So that is the significance of the vow. Of course, after we take the vow, we perform the yajna, we do the homa, we feed the other sannyasis that are present to give us our blessing and to welcome us. And the significance is, actually, the true sannyas means we practice paribraj, which means we never stay in any one location more than 3 days. A real sannyasi is not a man or a woman in orange cloth living in an ashram. Because in an ashram, if we live in one location, any location, even a cave for more than 3 days, we start to make improvements and we cultivate attachment. Whereas if we're in one location for 3 days, then we free ourselves from attachment, and our attachment is only to truth. And we cultivate the truth, we imbibe the truth, we establish the truth within, we establish ourselves in truth. And the truth is oneness with God. The truth is there's nothing more important in my life than puja, pat, homa, sangit, nrit, pravachan, and arpanam. These are the only karmas that have significance in my life. I will accept what I get if someone gives. I will eat. If someone does not give, I will not eat. It is not the same as someone who is running an ashram or paying the bills or doing the gardening or cooking the food or cleaning up the ashram. It is not a position of employment within an ashram system. That is not the definition of sannyas. I retired, now I took a new job, and now I'm a bookkeeper for the mission, or I am a cook, or a cleaner, or a teacher, or a doctor, or some position in the hierarchy of a spiritual organization. That's not really the definition of sannyas. In what ways is taking sannyas an external event, wearing geru cloth, and in what ways is it an internal attitude, and how are the two related? Well, it is, first we want the internal attitude. That worldliness has actually left me. Worldliness knocks on the door and there's just no one home. And that would be the true definition of sannyas. All the pleasures of the world knock on the door and there's just, hello, no one there. No response. It's not a desire to partake. It is not a desire to refrain from partaking. It's just no desire. No one's home. It means I don't have an anti-desire desire. Oh, I'm not going to take that, or I'm not going to partake of that because it will impinge upon my sannyas. Neither is it a desire, I must have that. Oh, I can't, I'll give up my sannyas in order to enjoy that. So the first attitude is, it's really vairagya. It's total dispassion. It's, you just don't, you're not attracted nor repulsed. You're right in the center, and you stay there for a long time before you take on the outer trappings of sannyas. Now the outer expression, of course, you wear the uniform, Just as every clergyman wears the uniform of their religious order, you observe the customs, you try to refrain from emotional contact with the opposite sexes, you speak a pure language, you remove all the profanity from your vocabulary. There are many outside events that correlate to the inner state. And this just becomes, there's a natural evolution. If we are close to 60 and feel we want to move to the last stage of life, sannyas, what are the options? Should we try to join some ashram? Well, today it's very common to join an ashram to become a sannyasi. But rather than joining an ashram, my first recommendation would be to, instead of joining an order of monks or monkeys, or are they monkesses? Instead of joining an order or a clerical order, I would suggest that you search out independent sadhus who are sannyasis, who are living the Dharma, and where they have one or two sannyasis in an ashram, rather than going to the Bharat Seva Ashram Sangha or the Ramakrishna Mission or any of the other large organizations where you become an employee of the organization in which to live your sannyas. That's not really the sannyas that we're looking for. We're striving to become established in truth, and we have a much better opportunity to do that if we are working together with one or two or three sadhus who are sannyasis, who have gotten it together for themselves. They could show me how to get it together for myself. So if I go to an order or an organization, they're going to say, you want to be a sannyasi, that's fine. You can take over this sphere of responsibility. You can become a teacher in the school. You can become an administrator for the ashram. You can run the charitable trust. You can run blah, blah, blah. But if you come to a sadhu sitting on a mountaintop by himself or herself, or a very small order, they'll probably say, okay, come on in and chant the Chandi and show us how you can add value to our community. You choose how you will add the value to your community. How do you want to make your contribution? So if you are capable and you really have the spirit, you have that effulgence, you have that understanding, you have that communication, go out on your own and be a sannyasi. Go from temple to temple on pilgrimage, and you'll collect your own following. And then you'll understand what it means to be sannyas, what it means to be detached and objective and fair, and guide your congregation in the greatest, with the greatest of inspiration and the greatest objectivity. You can say, if you go this way, this is the probable outcome of your actions, and if you go that way, this is the probable outcome of your actions. Namaste, you choose. And that is the quality of sannyas, that vairagya, that detachment, this passion to see objectively, to see clearly. To what extent is it necessary to follow the 4 ashrams if our goal is to reach God? It is the fact of everyone's life. When we are children, we need to learn how to make any kind of a contribution. We need to learn how to do our karma in this world. And when we grow up, we have energy, we have capacity, we know we want to make some contribution to this world. As we grow older into our elderly years, we slow down, and by necessity we look for ways to remove ourselves and relieve ourselves of the responsibilities that we've acquired. And ultimately, we just want to be one with God. It's the natural evolution of all life. It's going to happen to us all. Well, those are the questions on the 4 ashrams. Let's see, Nanda, are there any other questions on the 4 ashrams?
Yes, Swamiji, we have gathered a few here.
Please.
Swamiji, what is the fact of sannyas? Is it vairagya? Please, can you explain?
Yes, the fact of sannyas is vairagya. It's objectivity. It's that renunciation. It's that I'm not looking to get anything from you. Your growth, your improvement is my highest satisfaction. I'm not giving you this mantra for money. I'm not giving you this puja because you're paying me. I'm doing this because I love God, and God's going to take care of me. You will give to me what you can or what you want. That's not my outlook at all. What I get is the privilege to give to you my best. That's the bhavana, the attitude of sannyas. I'm established in truth. The sannyasi is established in truth. The truth is established within. Then what is he? He's going to sell you a mantra? He's going to sell you diksha, an initiation? What nonsense. The guru is going to give from her love. She's going to give you her teaching, her bhavana, her example, just because she loves you, not because she's expecting a payment or recompense or compensation in any way. You will want to support the teacher. If she is such an individual, you'll want to empower her to do it some more. It'll be your benefit to empower her to do more so that you can have a greater example, you can grow more. So your giving to her isn't an exchange. I'm going to give you initiation for $200 or $50, whatever it is. I'm giving you the special mantra that you need. Nonsense. I'm giving you from my heart, from my love. She is giving you the example because she loves you. She is sannyas. So the fact of sannyas is the bhavana of life. It's your attitude towards life. Am I out there wheeling and dealing and trying to make an exchange every day in every transaction? Or am I really working for the edification of my community, for the expression of my knowledge, for the understanding of my congregation, for the growth of the world? I'm making a contribution. And that's a sannyasi. She doesn't work for herself. She is self-employed with a capital S. Nanda?
Is vairagya cultivated or does it just happen arise in a person's life?
Oh, Rami, Mami, we have to cultivate it. We have to cultivate. When it will really come to us is grace, but the grace is kripa, and kri means do and pa means get. So we have to cultivate it. We've got to do the right things to cultivate that vairagya. I've got to put myself in the right frame of mind. If I go to a social party and there's loud music playing and lots of conversation and everybody's drinking and dancing and socializing, is that the appropriate environment for me to remember my mantra? Is that where I'm going to get my enlightenment? I want to put myself in the right environment with the right people doing the right things and feeling that bhavana, and then I can cultivate that attitude. Then I can do that sadhana. I can learn from Srima's example, how she sits diligently, regularly, every day at the same time, in the same place, saying the same mantras. She does her puja without fail. And when I do my puja without fail, I can hope that that vairagya will come to me as well. Because look, I am saying the same things the rishis said, sitting in the same way the rishis sat, in the same environment where the rishis would be placed. Isn't it possible that I too could become a rishi? This is the method of cultivating vairagya. Now, when she graces us with that vairagya, when she gives us that feeling, that bhavana, that privilege, that's up to her. She sometimes just winks, and we knew it was all worthwhile. Not a shadow of a doubt, it was all worthwhile. Nanda?
Ambika is asking, can a person just decide they want to become a sannyas, or do they need the blessings and guidance of their guru?
They need blessings and guidance. Definitely, Ambika. You can say, I want to start cultivating the attitude of sannyas, but where do you get that attitude? What are you going to do? You got to go to your guru and to all the gurus. And we said, Kutir Chak Bahudak, Hamsa, Paramahamsa. Then came Turiyatit and Abdut. Now, Kutir Chaki, you're sitting in your kutir, in your house, and you're studying, and you're meditating, and you're practicing, and you're learning your puja. Bahudak. You go to your guru and you learn with her. Your guru is going to send you to other gurus to learn other disciplines. And then you come back and cultivate the discrimination. What is the appropriate sadhana for me? So you won't be able to do it on your own. Ambika, we need blessings. We need an example. We need a definition. We need someone who can show us the way. That is the most appropriate. That is most appropriate. Nanda?
Dan is asking, can you please explain how you knew it was your time to become a sannyasin?
Do you know, how do you know when you're in love? How do you know when something is just right for you? How do you know that this is my way? You just know. Dan, there's a feeling that comes to you. You just know. And nobody has to tell you that that's what it's right for you. You just know. And when you got that feeling, then you go to your guru for confirmation and say, hey, Guru, I just know. And the guru will say, okay, let's see you prove it. Prove it. Show me how you know. Show me how you can make that behavior manifest in your own life. Show me what you have gained that you can give up. Can you give up? You can't renounce until you have something. I mean, you cannot say, I have nothing and therefore I'm a renunciate. That doesn't work. What do you have that you can give up? And now, how do you go about giving it up? What is the appropriate way? How do you organize your life so that you don't become a burden to others and you're a giver every time you go? You are going to give. That's your purpose, is to give. You are going to give. Now, how do you give? What's the right amount to give in each circumstance? When a giver comes into the room, everyone is going to stretch out their arms and say, give to me. Because unfortunately, human nature says, I don't have enough. Now, how much do you give and in what circumstances? This is your discrimination. This is the discrimination you need to cultivate, Dan. So you will know when it's time for you, and then others will know what you have to give up. What do you have to give? And how can you give? How much should you give? And what's the right environment? With what attitude do you give? Can you give passionately? Can others receive from you your passion? Does it turn other people on? Does it inspire them to the most noble conduct? Does it empower them to become the best that they can? These will be the questions that you'll have to ask yourself, Dan, as you figure out when it's time for you to become sannyas. Nanda?
Swamiji, question from Usha from Canada.
Namaste, Usha.
Swamiji, could you please explain what exactly does it mean to take Sahasra Chandi Sankalpa? Does it mean you recite Chandi all day, night long? How do you organize your day? And what is the purpose and execution? Could you take us through a day schedule?
Yes, Usha, I've done the Sahasra Chandi Yagya probably 5 times now. And each time was a little bit different. So I'll describe one time where I was in Rishikesh. I lived in a beautiful little cottage just near the bank of Ganga. The doors to the garden opened up to the bank of the Ganga, and I would get up in the morning and perform, take a bath in the Ganga. I'd come back. I had a beautiful garden I had planted with flowers and fruits and vegetables, and I would pick the flowers for the puja. I would go in and start the puja maybe by 5 o'clock. And the puja would last until 8:30 or maybe 9 o'clock. And I would take a little bit of tea and maybe a biscuit or two. And by 10 o'clock, I would take another bath in the Ganga. And 10:30, I would sit down at the yagya fire. And I would recite the Chandi Samputs for 5 hours and 45 minutes or more. So that I would get up in the early afternoon or mid-afternoon. I would go to the Ganga and take another bath. I would come back and prepare a little bit of food for the night. By 5 o'clock in the evening, I would start to perform the evening puja. I would offer the food that I cooked in the puja. I would then perform the arati. I would have a little satsang with a couple of friends who were my supply line. They would go to the market for me and bring me all the things that I needed on a regular basis. And then in the night after the satsang was complete, I would translate Sanskrit mantras. And I did that without going outside of that environment for 3 years.
And same food.
I had the same food at the same time every day.
I was young.
And Mother says I was young. But I could still enjoy that kind of way of life even today. Now we did another Sahasra Chandi Yagya here in the Devi Mandir, where we didn't go outside at all, and everything came in, and we did not go to any other place. And we did the puja and the pat and the homa and the satsang every night. But then I also had other duties to do, like take care of the ashram, and we were building things and we were clearing things. And I would spend a few hours driving the bulldozer and a backhoe, and we cleared the land, and we built the buildings at the same time. So that was a different Sahasra Chandi. So, Usha, you can take the sankalpa according to the dictates of your environment, the way you are prepared, what your goals are for that sankalpa, what your aspirations are for that sankalpa. The first sankalpa that I described to you was pure dharma. And the second sankalpa was the goal was to empower our ashram to grow up in the spirit of dharma. So before we dug the foundation, we cleared the land, and then I performed the Pancha Agni Sadhana. I did the yajna with 5 fires in the middle, right where our Havan Kund is today. And thereafter we dug a pit in that same area, and we made a time capsule of all the books that I had written, and we interned them into the ground underneath the foundation of our temple. And in fact, we interned into the ground underneath the foundation of every structure we built around the property. And we put copies of the Chandipat, we put copies of the Yajurveda and the Rudrastadhyaya and the Shiva Puja and the Bhagavad Gita. And we wrote a letter to the coming generations, whoever finds these books. We want you to know that our ashram is dedicated to the principles of Dharma which are expressed in these books. And therefore, we have dedicated our lives to this knowledge. We've dedicated our ashram to this knowledge. And we understand that you have found this because you've removed the ashram. Well, we are requesting that even though you've removed the ashram, you've torn down the buildings, you've torn down the structures, you've cracked the cement, you're breaking up the foundations, even still, we're requesting you to look at what's in these books. Because this is the definition for the values of our lives. And because of this, the adherence to these values, we lived a very rich life, filled with dharma, filled with love, filled with kindness, and ultimately we are striving to reach to bliss. We pray and we bless that your study of this material will give you the same fulfillment that it gave to us. And upon this foundation, we built the foundations, and then we built the Havan Kund, and then we built the walls of the ashram over the altars of the temple. So that we were sitting in worship every day while the construction was going on. It was really a wonderful sankalpa. And that's why our Devi Mandir ashram is infused with Dharma. It's got the bhava. It's intrinsic to every stone, every piece of wood, every nail that was used in the construction. Just like Hanuman and all of his monkey army was writing Ram, Ram on every stone they threw into the ocean to make the bridge to reach to Lanka. In the same way, every stone and every nail and every piece of wood, all the materials of construction of our ashram in the Devi Mandir were infused with this love of God. And we hope that this ashram is a monument to our love for God. Om Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.